Welcome back, or to, the Grey Couch, where we believe that marriage and life really is not black or white, but many shades of grey, and we get to explore those many shades together so we have a better relationship, better selves, and better marriages. So, today.
Hello, I'm Otito.
And I am Stanley.
For those who are already, for those who are meeting me for the first time. But this week, this week started with me throwing something. Like I threw something. I took that thing and I flung it so far away from, the people that were arguing about who gets first dibs, last dibs, whatever. Right? And I did because I was frustrated, right? I mean, some people would say anger, but I feel like I'm learning to label emotions better and not, just flatten them. So I would say frustration, right? Or maybe irritation. But, other than that, people would say, well, either way, I needed to calm down, right? Like you say, as Nigerians would say, baby, calm down, right? But since I'm not Selena Gomez having a Rema singing to me, let's just say that I wasn't calming down at the point. But put a pin to that. We're going to come back to that story. Yeah.
Yes, we want to find out what it was that she treated and who she treated her. But we digress. Let's jump in.
Oh my goodness. So, the impetus, right, or why we decided to come this week with this particular topic was a book we were reading. So Tim Keller, of blessed memory, because he passed away last year, I think, wrote a book called The Meaning of Marriage, right? And in that book, he was talking about the things that, he was talking about the purpose of marriage, right? Why do you marry? Why did you get married? And this is a question we've asked before on the couch. If you follow us, we've asked this question before. And we also polled, the people who get our newsletter, right? If you're not getting our newsletter, please subscribe, right? We made a poll of the people, our subscribers, and the preponderant answer, as you might have guessed, was companionship, right? So if you said companionship is the reason why people get married, ding ding. How do they do it on a job? Not quite, right? So companionship is one of the reasons, but in that book he was, making the argument that is not the central reason why people get married. And Tim Keller is a Christian, so obviously there's a faith-based background to the book, and so he was saying that the reason why people come together is it's a journey, right? Marriage is a journey and a lifelong one if you keep at it, right, till death do us part. But he was saying that the reason is because you have to help your spouse become the person that God designed them to be. Like you have to help them on their journey to becoming.
Yeah, and that's something that the psychologists call the Michelangelo effect, whereby you help your partner become all that they're able to be on their inside. Imago Dei. Remember the Alamo. It's how I try to remember that one. So to remember that, and that's like we actually have some connection cards to that effect. We had a webinar to that effect. I have some connection cards that will help you do that. Give you some practical tips on it. Send your email here, and I will personally send it out to you.
Okay.
Make sure you get it. But back to this thing about helping your partner become the best that they can be. I personally have found that you have to use the right type of currency, and by currency I do not mean money, as the title was. But currency like
money.
It could be. I'm not gonna. But for the most part, I don't mean currency. And what do I mean? I mean the manner in which the person likes to be talked to, likes to be loved. If I can use one word, to be loved. And this is similar to the love languages, but not exactly that. So I've found out that in this our work together, the journey is really finding out what is that particular currency that will help this person
for the season.
In that particular season. That will help that person in that particular season. And season implying that it could change. So the currency that I needed before I had kids is different from the currency that I need now that I have kids. Lord Jesus help me. And that is also different from the currency that I need when we're empty nesters. But I think that is the question here. As in, why did you get married? And if you want to bring out the best, how's the best way in this particular season of life that you can help your partner be the best person that they can be, and that person is already on the inside of them. It's just the Michelangelo factors that carving it out of them. Michelangelo will have a marble piece and ask him, how did you carve this? No, I didn't carve that. This was already inside the piece. I just chipped out what was not necessary, and there you have the masterpiece. And that is the vision that we have for marriage, and I think that's what Mr. Keller was trying to point out.
Okay. Yeah, so you heard Stanley talk about currency, and I believe currency comes with cost, right? And by cost, you think about what it took to print the money, what it takes to, if it's money, right? Whatever the currency is. So let's take physical currency. If you think physical currency, right? Think about what it takes to, print the money, distribute the money, store the money, right? All of those things come with their costs, right? But then currency is also something you exchange to gain something, right? Think about it. So there's cost and then there's gain. And so when you think about marriage, right, and you think about it just generally in this currency of love, you find out that there's a cost and there are gains, right? There are costs and there are gains. And so sometimes you kind of want to think about, okay, what has been the gains to me, even as there's a cost, right? Because I think we tend to sometimes overly focus on the cost as opposed to the gains, right? So now for me, I'm going to start with the gains, and the gain for me, at least on this journey, has been learning patience, right? Humility, I would say maybe children, but let's just say, just in the journey of marriage, and patience. When I say patience, I mean PATIENCE. Yes. So the patience you used to hear me spell out, that, let's just say, I've learned it. If you think about it, for those of us who are believers, it says patience is a fruit of the Spirit, right? And I believe, like, for me, if I'm a tree, I've been thoroughly pruned to yield that spirit, to yield that fruit, right? That fruit of patience. And pruning comes with pain, right, in that sense, but the gains of it is that you have sweet fruit that everybody can benefit from. So remember my story at the beginning, I said God is still working on me, like the Lord is still working on me. But patience, like I feel like patience is something that I've gained in the course of this relationship, and you may understand what I'm saying, right? The patience to just sit when you want to, like, almost like, I don't want to use the word rescue someone, because not like your partner is a baby, but when you feel like let me just get this over with and just let's wrap this up, or this thing is taking too long, or the patience to sit and watch them become, right, watch them come into their own and all that kind of thing, when you are maybe much further ahead, right? So it takes a lot of patience, and that's why I also tagged humility on there as well, right? So that's something. If I'm thinking about the cost, right, if I think about the cost, maybe it's cost me some of my ambitions, right? And if you notice, I didn't say the man, I said the marriage, right? In that sense, that the marriage has cost me some of my ambitions, because if you weren't married, there are many things you'll be doing, right? And that comes with that cost, or that, I don't want to say loss, right? Individual loss, personal loss, comes with the territory, is what I'm trying to say. But the idea now is that perhaps that's not what you were meant to do, right? Maybe there are other things now that you're meant to do, that your partner is then supposed to help you become, right, in that sense. So what about you?
I feel like I'm on a different type of couch right now. All right, so if I want to be completely honest, and I always want to be completely honest, I'll start with what I feel marriage has cost me. Start on a little bit of negative, and then end on a positive note of what I have gained. Yeah. So if I feel that the marriage has cost me my freedom, and by freedom I don't mean shackles and slavery, there's a T-shirt that one of my siblings has. Game over, married, game over. But anyway, and if by freedom I mean, you know how a bird or a stallion can just roam, yeah, untethered. You can do whatever. You can see many vistas and everything, but you don't really have like a nesting place or a place you can grow in, you can groom, you know, or think of a stallion or a horse that, I'm not saying I'm a stallion or a horse that's running and roaming for, you're free to roam, but there's nothing to harness you, you know. And so I guess with that in mind, that's what I feel I've caused. There are many things I've explored, but God found, oh, you're married, you're gonna temper that down. So that's kind of segueing to what I think I have gained. And I think I've gained a whole lot more than I've lost. I every day I think I won the lottery. Yeah, I won the lottery, you know, and you know what has this? If I want to use her example and use the fruit of the spirit, I would say perhaps self-control, but really the word is more discipline. You know, I've learned discipline, and you know you cannot really achieve anything. You cannot achieve anything great without discipline. You have a great idea; it takes discipline to walk the path to bring it out. You have beautiful children. It takes discipline to keep them on the straight and the narrow, you know. So I think that's what I've gained. But my question to you though is that are we saying that single people can't have this type of cost benefits?
No, at all, right? Like if you say, you know, what's the word? If you're thinking about maybe impact or relevance or things like that, that is not what we're saying at all. You know me, the way I feel about this thing, I feel like, you know, God uses everyone. The marriage is not the state of, you know, blissfulness that would complete everything, right? You kind of just have to know when your season you are in the walk with God. And being married, not being married, it shouldn't, like, I don't want to say it shouldn't change anything, but you know, God uses people wherever they are. You know, some would even argue that actually, you know, like what Paul was saying, that marriage makes you not very useful. Not very useful in the kingdom, right? Because you are distracted with the things of God as opposed to a single person, right? This is what we're saying in terms of, you know, all of this cost benefits in that sense. And on, you know, on the concept of freedom, right? I feel like sometimes this is what I hear people of the male, you know, species saying, the male human species saying, and it makes me laugh because I feel like women can say that too. Like marriage has cost them, you know, their freedom. They could be better off, you know, not married and all that kind of thing. And some people then make that choice actually to say, you know, to blazes with this, I'd rather be alone than do all this wahala, right? So you kind of have to, for those who are listening, wahala is like trouble. the Nigerian word for trouble. But you know, thanks for sharing, right? In that sense, because I asked you, I said, what were your own cost and gain? So thanks for sharing with me and with the audience, and thanks for, you know, letting me know that my worth is in multiples of millions, because that's where all the lotteries go these days, hundreds of millions and billions. But yeah, so it was Bell Hooks, you know, I don't know, writer Bell Hooks, if you're familiar with her, who said that we learn best through conversation, that she feels we learn best through conversation because, you know, it's dialectical, right? You are speaking and the other person is giving their response and back and forth. And so that's what we try to you know, do here on the couch, right? Because many times when we talk about, if you listen now for this whole conversation, we framed it in terms of, you know, the benefits of marriage, but we also looked at the cost. So if you think about it, these are cost benefits analysis, but we're doing it inside the marriage, right? So that's the difference. Most people will sit outside and do all this analysis and say, yeah, I don't want to marry, or I want to marry. Right? Or some people will come and say, oh, it's all about gains, you know, what people now may call toxic positivity. There are no losses and this and that, which to me, I think is sometimes what then surprises you when people separate. You say, oh, but I thought you all said there were gains. So what was the issue, you know? So these are the kinds of conversations that we have
all the time.
I don't want to say daily because then you say, who are these people, right? But we tease things out with conversation. And if, you know, we have a book that we talked about the 4 C's of marriage, and conversation really is the bedrock. I don't know how to explain how we feel like this is so fundamental, because as humans, that's what we were, you know, created to do, to converse, right? with ourselves, with God, right? With, the people would say with spiritual, deity or whatever you practice. But for us, as believers, we say you're conversing with God. Is that like heart to heart, right? That kind of adds to our humanity. And I don't think marriage should be any different. Like, you should not be looking and saying, oh, it should only be one way, right? Once you ever see shoe, then there's a problem, right? In that sense, it means you are literally weighing yourself against another person's expectations or, rules or things like that. So here on the couch, that's kind of what we do, right? We kind of frame and reframe things. So the idea today was to reframe the concept of marriage being just about companionship or just being about you. Like, you have work to do, right? Think about it. We're both building. If you say we're building a life together, if you've ever built anything, even any of these Lego pieces or something from IKEA or whatever, if you know, right? That sometimes you're going to have to unscrew something and screw it back again. Right? And say, I place this thing the other way, I place this the other way. But if you're patient enough, you will have something. And for some of us, you may have something with some dings there, but you put the dings behind, right? And you kind of, show the best parts. You understand? And that's the idea, right? That you make up for each other's inadequacies, but then you bring your best selves out, because those best selves is literally who God is designing you to be. So, our question for you now is to also take stock of your own relationship and think, right, about certain questions.
Yeah, and always in a safe space, asking back and forth. Because this conversation is about feedback. I ask you a question, and it's not just a verbal question. She's looking at my body language and things like that, my eye and my frown and things like that. So, an easy place to, well, I shouldn't say easy, a starter place. Let's get a starter, because these questions, if you're a guy, like, it's kind of, it searches your soul, and only honest answers work. There's a saying I heard, like, easy questions don't make us better. It's the challenging questions that make us better. But how is your marriage making you and or your spouse better? Is it making it better? Is it making it worse? Is one question, as in how. And then the best way I like to do this is to avoid the group think. I first think of a question on my own, where they are not crying eyes staring at me, and then come together and say, and then come together and
right
exactly, and then come together and it's your honest answer experience.
I think the idea is just exactly what we've done. Like, how has the marriage changed you, and it's still changing you for the better, right? How has it changed you? Because unless you are a humanoid in a relationship, there's a way you have changed, right? There's a way you have changed just by virtue of, sleeping and rising with the same person for X number of years.
Yes. Another question would be, how are you helping your significant other become better versions of themselves?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because the question then becomes about you looking past yourself, right? It's not all about me. What is that thing that is in this person that I can, help them achieve? And as they're achieving it, triumph with them, or how do I put, like, celebrate with them, right? In that sense, because that also feeds into your own thing of, if you cannot celebrate with your spouse, then you have work to do, right? In terms of, being happy for them. Another question, right? We've talked about currency a lot, and I'm going to ask it as part the woman in here. And the question is, are you using the right currency, right, to pay in question for your partner's heart, right? Why did I phrase this way? Because hearts are very expensive, right? A heart is the essence of a person, and if you're not paying in the right currency, you could lose it, right? In that sense, you could lose it, because then it's no longer yours, right? I know I'm speaking in a lot of metaphors, but if you go with me, you'll see where I'm going, right? Like, you don't want to break your heart, you don't want to lose your heart on the journey, because if you then lose it, another could get it, right? In that sense, and it might be difficult, to recoup your loss, to recoup and win that heart back, or pay back for it, kind of. So always be making your deposits, right, in the right currency.
And sometimes you have to ask what that right currency is.
All the time. All the time. Don't presume you know, right, in that sense, because that's another thing that Tim Keller was saying, that if a person says that, if you think a person needs $100, right, or they've kind of said they need $100, you want to ask, how do you want the $100? Is it cash,
gold bars,
check, gold bars, IOU? There's so many ways that you can transfer, value, right, currency. And so don't be caught dead with, physical notes when the currency of the hour is crypto.
okay. So we've said a lot here, but we want to hear from you. Let us know what your journey is. How's your journey been with this concepts that we're sharing? Currency, hard value, pros and cons, benefits and gains in the marriage, and each person's story is unique because it's your story, and your journey. So we would like to hear from you. Send us an email at right there. And if you're at the sizzling start, the messy middle, or the ecstatic end, let us know. We're part of your tribe, and I'm sure we can learn from each other.
I love the idea of the ecstatic end. So now, for those of you who stayed all the way here, they're asking me what I threw.
Yes.
Drum roll.
And who you threw it at?
I threw a bag of little bites cookies. Let me tell you, these children will get on my nerves. My last last nerves. Please let me tell my story. It's my story. Remember? So I'm trying to get ready. We're trying to go, to summer camp, and I'm like getting ready, putting everything together. And then Dad brings out little bites, and it's like, oh, this is the last little bite. And children, it's like, I want it, I don't want it, you want it, back and forth. I get first dips, I get last dips, and here I am trying to pack, trying to get everything together. And we were trying to leave to make it, for a certain time. So the argument back forth. I'm telling you, I picked up that little bite and I flung it across the room. Not at anyone. I just flung it. I was like, get this thing away. Oh my God.
We're laughing now, but give my knee therapy.
I was like, get this thing away from me. Like, what is this? Before I open my eyes, before I close my eyes, I'm a Nigerian mother, I'm telling you. I said, before I close my eyes and open them, you all need to have all these things I'm bringing out packed and ready to go in the next 2 minutes. So then I go upstairs, to go change my clothing. I come back, everybody's packed and in the car. Everybody's packed and in the car. It's like, yeah. So obviously I apologized to everyone. I said there was no excuse for yelling, no excuse at all. We can talk about this later. But in the car, the children and I, we're not talking. And I apologized to them again. I said, look, I didn't need to yell, but I was so frustrated, right? So the little one said, Mom, I need to get better at, analyzing your frustration level so I can stay away from you, because when you get frustrated you can get a bit fierce, and I think a bit. But anyway, that was it. Remember I said God is still working on me, because I feel like every time you think I'm making progress, you get a little bite. A little bite to let you know this journey is continuous, right? In that sense. Yeah, so little bites. So please don't be like me. Don't let little bites get the better of you.
Pun intended. Well, that's what we have for you for this week, from our couch to yours. Thanks for tuning in. And if this has blessed you, share it with one person.